Okay. All right, we're live. Welcome to another episode of the 10 Horse Money YouTube channel, Monday Night Live.
Happy Memorial Day.
Happy Memorial Day, everybody. You know, it's something to live in the greatest country in the world. It's another thing to be able to do what we do because people sacrificed their life for us.
Absolutely.
I mean, we're able to live in a free country. We can run around. We can be as dumb and stupid as we want, or we can be as conservative and respectable and calm as we want.
You know,
and anything in between.
And we can do a podcast like this on Monday night.
Yeah, on Monday night.
Right.
It's because people sacrifice for us. So
Right.
shout out to the families of those who have lost loved ones along the way. And it's
Ones
more
that
than
are
just
still,
a day off.
Ones that are still fighting over there.
Yeah, that's true. That's
So.
true, man. There's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes that we don't even know about.
Yep.
It's just, you know, we don't hear about it. We go through our daily routines, and there's people that are fighting tooth and nail just to keep this
Fighting
this
for their
place
lives, for our lives.
running. Yeah.
Exactly. Stuff people just normal every day. We just don't realize or, see what's going on to allow us to do basically whatever we want to do here.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm always amazed at, like, you think of some of these countries, like even like Mexico, you know, that's to our southern border. You go to Mexico, it's completely different. It's not uncommon for, you know, the cartel or drug lords to come out of nowhere, hijack your vehicle, steal all your stuff, chop your head off, the craziest gruesome things you can think of. And here, you know, that stuff just doesn't happen. We can leave Missouri, we can go to Illinois, we can go to Iowa, we can cross any state border from coast to coast, and there's no border checks, there's no militia that we have to worry about. So it really is a special place, and,
Right.
and we're, you know, we could have been born anywhere.
Yeah.
It's just a sheer luck, I guess, that, you know, we were born in the United States. So thank God, thank country, and thank our military for protecting us. So what's going on, Jim? How you been? Uh-oh, he's froze up. I think he's playing around with his phone.
Is he just playing around with us though? Is he just?
He's got this stoic look on his
Well,
face.
you did pose a question, right? Like, what's working for you right now? And I got to the
He's
lake.
back.
There we go.
He's back. I think you were touching too many buttons, I think.
I think so. Okay. I'll leave everything alone now.
Yeah. So, are there any pleasure boats out?
I tell you what, Denise did a trip yesterday. I went out this morning, and it was pretty good, until about 9 o'clock. And jet skiers come out, and the skiers come out. I think we headed in about 10:30, but we don't complain about that. Everybody's down here just having a good time. We're out there. We caught some fish. We had a great time, and we went in, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and just enjoyed, like we were talking, be able to have this freedom and do what we want, So, and people are down here just enjoying themselves, and that's what we like to see anyway. So, we got out early, then got off the water the other day, had a dock party, and just enjoyed the weekend.
Well, you live down there. You guys fish down there all year. You guys get used to that traffic, right? I mean, that's for folks like us that don't fish there every weekend. It's a busy lake anyway. But you had a Memorial Day on there, and it gets really, really busy for us. For you, that's just another weekend, right?
Yeah, I mean, this weekend, Memorial Day weekend, was probably one of the first I can remember the last several years where there was no major rainstorm or no windstorm or something. The weather was just beautiful and perfect all weekend. So it really brought people out. And, the lake was busy. The restaurants were busy. Everything was busy down here, But like you said, it's getting to be the norm here in the last couple of years. It's just busy here all the time.
Yeah, it really is. That's a really neat place. I get down there probably, I don't know, maybe 5 times a year. And
yeah,
it's got everything you need. I mean, there's multiple bait shops down there.
Yeah,
lots of great places to eat. You
right.
You got Andy's Custard. You You got Randy's custard. Just got a little bit of everything.
We've got an assortment of restaurants that they're popping up. We've got some old ones, some new ones, and they're just it's like all the good stuff is coming to Lake of the Ozarks. Driving diners and dives could come here and spend a week, filming on all of our unique restaurants we have around the lake.
What's some of the places that maybe out of towners may not know? Is there a couple spots that just the locals eat at more so than just the tourists?
Oh yeah, I mean we've got on the west side. I live on the west side. We call it the west side. It's over here off of 5 Highway, over Hurricane Deck area. Okay. We've got a place called the Branding Iron. I mean, just excellent food and service. A lot of locals visit it and support them. But a lot of out of towners and travelers come through there too. There's another little place off of F Road. It's called Papa Chubby's. By the lake, it's probably 26, 27 mile marker, but it's off of F Road. It's just kind of one of them little hidden gems, great food and entertainment. Man, we just got so much stuff. There's a burger place called Taboo up in Lori. They just custom build your burgers. There's a breakfast. We call it breakfast and lunch. Val's. A restaurant up in Lori. We got Chances Are. These are all local spots that the tourists and out of towners, they come and they hear about it, and man, they go to them and they just flock to these restaurants because a lot of these you've got the owners work these restaurants, so anytime the owners are in there, you usually have a lot better service, better food. They just quality control is there, with all that. We've got we call it a gas station. It's called CG's right there in Lori, right there by Hurricane Deck Bridge. And they serve probably one of the best breakfasts around. It's a gas station, but a lot of those little places like that a lot of us locals, just visit, frequently, but the out of towners, they're hearing about them and they know about them too.
Yeah, I wrote those down because when we come down there, we stay at the 36 mile marker. So near Landshark, kind of, KK, Highway KK, I think it is.
Yeah, 30. You said 36?
34, maybe 34, 36, right in there.
That's right there at Hurricane Deck.
Yeah, so the Tantera Island is right there. Right,
that's 26.
Okay, yeah, that's where we're at, 26.
Okay. Yeah, 26 is Tantera.
Okay, yeah. So we've got the Pancake House is a little breakfast spot.
Oh yeah,
I love that place. It's small and
right there off at KK.
Yeah. Man, you can get
right in a hurry.
I get the chicken fried steak and the home fries, and man, I do it up. Basically, when I go in there, I eat, and I'm not hungry until like 3 o'clock that afternoon. That's like a 6:30 breakfast.
Yeah,
and I normally eat like every 3 or 4 hours, but it just swells up, and it's like my mom used to say, it sticks to your ribs, and it just lasts all day.
That place is one of those. Well, I'd call it a local place, and it's just full all the time. There's a little Cozy Calf right there, almost kind of catty corner from where you're talking about. That's just one of them local places, just good food, good service, great atmosphere, the whole deal. Just kind of the lake atmosphere, really.
There's something to be said about the locally owned, locally operated. My wife and I don't think we've been to a chain restaurant besides fast food in, gosh, almost a year. Ever since we got back from the perils of COVID, if you will.
Yeah.
The service in some of these chain restaurants, I wouldn't say all of them, but some of them is just it's going downhill.
The waitress up there at Pancake House, I think her name is Sasha. She's one of those gals that can remember. She you order once and she remembers what you had, especially if you go 2 days in a row, and then she doesn't write anything down. That blows my mind. How can you write down people are ordering all?
It's amazing. I know what you're saying. Yeah, they're like, okay, what do you want? What do you have? What you're having? You're like, she ain't writing it down. There's 5 of you, 6 of you at the table, and they come back and the orders are perfect.
Yeah, and she knows who got what when she comes to bring it to you.
Right, that's what I'm saying. She don't have to ask who had this and this. she sets it down in front of the right person. Yeah, you're right. That's exactly what you get with these local restaurants. I think so.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's good stuff. Where's Denise at tonight?
Well, Denise had every intention. We'll just say she had a good time today. She ain't gonna make the call tonight.
Well, good for her. As long as it's for a good reason, it's all good.
Yeah. You know, I mentioned Papa Chubby's. There was a whole group of us was at Papa Chubby's earlier. So yeah,
we didn't cut it short for you, did we?
Papa Chubby got the best of her.
Yeah, I think so.
Well, good. Well, let her know we missed her. So.
Yeah. I asked her to about 15 minutes ago. I'm like, hey, we got to go on. I ain't gonna make it. So,
well, if she gets to feeling better, she can jump on here later.
Yeah. Okay.
It's an open invite.
I'll do my best to talk for her too. You know.
Yeah.
Right.
So I was gonna one of the questions I was gonna ask is, how'd you guys meet and how'd you end up in Lake of the Ozarks?
Yeah. Well, it's kind of one of the funny stories, I guess you'd say. We actually met in high school back in the 80s, early 80s. And I always kid Denise. I say, if you would just give me, a look, back in the 80s, we could have saved each other a lot of trouble, But we met in high school. I was a senior. She was a freshman. We kind of went our different ways for a while. But then I would say back in early 90s, we re-met. Just by chance, I was headed to a tournament. She was at a gas station. I pulled in a gas station. We got to talking. I got her numbers. And then the rest is kind of history. We got together, got married. We've been married almost 20 years now. We've been down here at the lake for about 20 years. Also full time, both from around south of St. Louis, about 50 miles south of St. Louis is where we were from when we moved down here. But we made the move down here. A lot of things went on. A lot of tournament fishing. We purchased Crock O Gator in 2010. Had it for about 10 years. Grew it. Promoted it, and it just snowballed. With a lot of hard work, and then obviously the support that everybody give us. It just snowballed, and then it got to the point. Denise retired from teaching 30 years. I'm a retired carpenter from St. Louis. I still work full time EMS down here. We're both guiding full time down here. It just got too much for us to be able to do. We're almost holding the company back. I kind of felt like it needed somebody to take it to the next level and move it forward and promote it. And, everybody knows, I think about about a year and a half now, we sold to Joey, and boy, she's really picked up where we left off, and she's really supporting or moving it forward, promoting it, doing a great job moving the company forward, so, everything's just kind of working out. We try to slow down, but it seems like we're busier now than ever. So all good though,
Are you still full-time EMS?
Yes, I still work 2 24-hour shifts every week over here on the west side. It's something that's completely different than fishing. Obviously, no construction. It's totally different than what I've done all my life, and I just really enjoy it. It's when I head into work, it's not like I'm going to work. I really enjoy the people I work with. I enjoy the EMS aspect of helping people. When they may be having their worst day, we try to do what we can to help them through it. And it's just really rewarding for me. And I just really enjoy going to work. So I don't see myself stopping that anytime real soon, but it's just one of the things. I enjoy it.
Do you guys, so you're in I guess it's sort of a smaller community. Are you an average night? How many calls would you normally get as an EMS?
Man, that's, we talk, in the off season, say, I don't know, October through I don't know, April, May, we've got a lot of just, I ain't gonna say your normal or routine calls, medical calls. We've got everything. Everything goes on down here at the lake. But then like now, May, June, July, August, we're going to get into more of your, just things that happen here at the lake.
Yeah.
Just because of the influx of people. We grow 10 to 12 times the people in the summertime. So our call volume goes way up. We run a lot of different types of calls. I would say more like trauma related calls. But, man, the other night I worked Saturday. I think we ran 5 calls, through the evening and into the night. We may have a quiet day. So we try to get some rest. But then at night, we know we're going to start running, by, I don't know, 9, 10 o'clock, we'll start running. We might run all night. It's really unpredictable, honestly. But, in the summertime, I don't know, probably anywhere from 4 to 7, 8 calls a shift. And each call is probably a minimum of 2.5 hours turnaround from time you get dispatched to picking up the patient, hospital, coming back, restock. So, you add that up, it's a full day, depending on types of calls too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a different change from carpentry work and construction to
A little more exciting, probably.
to fishing to.
Right. That's what I'm saying. It's totally different than what, I grew up to. And, for 25, almost 30 years, I was a carpenter in St. Louis, and then moved down here and actually volunteered for a fire department, got my EMT, and then, went to work for the ambulance service over here, Lake West Ambulance on the west side. And I've been there a little over 10 years. And it's just, like I said, it's just kind of it's a job and it's work, but it's really enjoyable. So it's not one of them deals where, like I said, you wake up going, oh man, I got to go to work. I don't mind it one bit.
It's probably a good reset too, right? I mean, you got your mind off fishing, you got your mind off the guide service.
Mm-hmm.
You go in, you put your 24 in, and you're out the door.
Right. Yeah, exactly. It's a good reset. It's a good, I don't know how to say it. Just, makes you reflect on life. Put your priorities in line. If you get what I'm saying,
Absolutely.
Life can change in a second. And we see it all the time. So it really makes you, the small stuff really don't matter,
Yeah, that's good stuff. I mean,
yeah,
you're seeing people go through struggles real time, and they woke up in the morning, they had no idea that was going to happen to them, later on that afternoon. And that's that, like you said, things can change at any time. I mean, we should definitely
do. And we see some of the freakish accidents, whatever you want to call it, things that happen down here. You're like, never in a million years would you have thought that could happen. And it happens, it just happens. So, it just keeps you level-minded and, in touch with reality, really.
Yeah. You're talking about construction work.
Yeah.
My stepdad was a carpenter he's still a carpenter, but he built homes for 31 years and he's still doing it even though he's retired. Not homes, but he's helping me on our new house. And he sent me a picture. Oh, it's been a long time ago, but he was up shooting nails and up in the rafters or floor joists.
Yeah.
And one shot all the way through. I think it shot in and it hit another nail or something and came back out and went right through his wrist. But I'm like, golly, that's the most. He sent me that picture and I about threw up. I'm like, you got a nail through your wrist.
And on a construction site, you might come down, you pull that out, and you wrap it up with some duct tape or some electric tape, and you go back to work. That's just the way it is.
Buttercup.
Yeah, exactly. You work, you get paid. You don't work, you don't get paid. That's how construction is. So, but I appreciate all the work I had all the years, and it was a great career, and I mean, it's one of them deals. I built our house here at the lake about about 6 years ago, I guess 7 years ago. And I said, that's it. This is the last one. And my son and daughter-in-law and grandson, we just built them a home. We just finished it up. They just moved in it. It turned out real good. But it's like, construction. I guess you say you're out of it, but you're never really out of it.
Yeah, especially if you enjoy it. Like my stepdad, he just likes doing that kind of stuff. So that's kind of his hobby as well as his way he earned his income, and he likes doing projects. And it's amazing. I have so much respect for a hammer drill, like a good hammer drill, because I was putting I was building shelves yesterday and today in our new house in the basement. And it's concrete wall.
Yeah.
So I'm just building 4 levels, and I'm running 18 foot on one side, and I'm running basically 14 foot on the other side. So it's a pretty big project, but I'm putting studs, horizontal studs with a Tapcon. I think that's what they call them. Okay.
Yeah.
But I got a hammer drill that's like it's a 3-in-1 deal. It's like it's a regular drill, and you turn a little knob, and it's sort of a hammer drill. Well, my shoulder is hurting because I'm sitting there it's taking me like a minute to a minute and a half to get a hole drilled in the wall.
Right.
Well, he comes over and he's like, try this, and he throws down this. It's a DeWalt hammer drill. That's what it does. That's all it does. It's a hammer drill. It was like butter. I mean, like I could go. So this other drill that I was using, I couldn't even drill through wood with it. I had to pre-drill my holes first.
Right.
Okay. So he hands me this hammer drill. I go right through the wood. I mean, I'm in and out in like 3 seconds.
In the concrete and everything.
Yeah, in the concrete and everything.
Well,
and it'll go as deep as you want to go. And it's
well, we can relate that right back to fishing, right? Having the right tool for the job,
Yeah,
right? Exactly. Like if you got a flipping stick, 7-10 flipping stick that's extra heavy, you're not skipping a dock with that.
you're not throwing a drop shot on it either.
No, you're not. So when the wife asked why we got so many rods, you got to have the right tool for the right job, right?
Yeah.
See, Jim doesn't have that problem because his wife fishes. So that's just the double the tackle warehouse and the
If he breaks
bait
a rod, you can
works
borrow
and-
her rod.
yeah.
or vice versa.
The Omnia Sports. I mean, exactly. Denise works at Fitz Fishing. And they pay her, but it's more so how much less does she owe them? At the end of the week,
Pay the
after
tab
she
off a
buys
little
all
bit.
the tackles, she's always bringing home everything.
Yeah. And you're getting to see the latest and the greatest stuff that's coming.
Oh yeah, and actually, what everyone else is using. She's like, such and such was in. They bought 6 of these. So she comes home with the same thing.
So who's the worst tackle junkie, you or her?
I would say her.
Really?
Yeah, I'm pretty kind of old school, pretty basic. I keep pretty simple, and she's all over the place. She's, her boat's full of tackle, full of new tackle, old tackle, organized. She's a retired teacher, so her boat's totally organized. Mine's pretty well kept, but nowhere near what hers is.
But I bet you both know where everything's at, right?
Oh yeah, exactly. If someone asks me, I can open the lid and say it's in there on the left, probably second bag over. Same deal, right?
Right.
Yep.
But you just wouldn't have to ask her. You could find it because it's all labeled and it's nice and pretty.
Exactly. It's, everything's marked, everything's labeled. It's probably in alphabetical order if you really look at it.
I'm married to a teacher. I understand.
It's got a little problem.
You get exactly what I'm saying,
The best stuff has a gold star on it.
That's right.
Maybe 2 gold stars on it.
Yeah. It gets depending on how effective the bait is, that's how many stars it gets,
Yeah. If it's got 5 stars in it, you better be throwing it,
Right. Exactly.
What do you throw? Do you have any old baits that you throw consistently? One that comes to mind that I've been throwing a lot is a Chug Bug, and I know you're a fan of the Chug Bug, and that's been around forever.
I'm a huge Chug Bug fan. I mean, on trips, man, we throw a Chug Bug a lot. It just gets bites, and you can catch just a lot of numbers, really. But man, them big fish will come up and hit that Chug Bug too, So it's just that's probably a real good old school bait, the Chug Bug. Smithwick Rogue, throw a lot of those. In the wintertime, mainly they're just real durable. You can't break them. You can throw them on the rocks and drag them in, and that bill just holds up. Compared to like a, mega bass, the wind blows too hard, it's going to break that bill.
Yeah,
You know,
If you look at it wrong in your tackle box, it's going to fall off in your
Man,
tackle box.
I blew the
exactly.
bill
You
out
got
of
to be real
one.
careful getting it out of the box, or you break that bill. You know,
It's bad. They're bad. They're good bait, but man, they are fragile.
yeah, nothing worse than a brand new $25 mega bass and the bill's broke. You know, it's useless now. You know, you try to strip the hooks off of it and salvage whatever you can. You know,
I got one in there right now. The first one that I broke a bill off was that first one that I've ever broke a bill off of was this fall at Lake of the Ozarks, and I didn't even really hit the rocks that hard.
No,
I really didn't.
You just got
I
close to it.
was shocked. I was shocked when I pulled it back in and the bill was completely gone. It broke off clean right at the throat, and I saved it. And I thought, well, maybe I'll use it. As
Can
a
you
top
still send
water
it
or
in?
something. I don't.
You used to be able to send them in.
I don't know. That was use your error.
yeah, I don't know about that. I heard at one time you probably could, but I probably got 20 of them hanging in the shop here. I don't know why I keep them. You know, they got
Because they're
hooks
$25. They're good ornaments.
Yes, I'll steal the hooks off them when I need them, or something. I don't know why I keep them. You know, it's a lot of baits like that.
Yeah, I'm the same way. Same way. I'm gonna throw. Have you ever thrown one without a bill? It doesn't do anything, does it?
It just kind of rolls in the water. You can tell. You know, you're throwing one and you throw it out there before you realize the bill's broke, and you go to twitch it and you're like, oh man, I know what that means, because it's just on the top of water, kind of fluttering around. You know.
Yeah.
I guess you could use it as a wake bait this time of year. You know.
Yeah, a super high riding wake bait that doesn't even wake. It just kind of.
God forbid somebody gets on that pattern. Everybody's gonna be buying $25 jerk baits and
they'll be
off of them.
Right, they'll be buying them, off internet, broken 110s.
Spending more money on them.
If you can figure out how to put a
a
scrounger head in front of it, like a suction cup.
Yeah.
They used to make those little suction cup things that you ran your line through the middle and it was a suction cup and you kind of pegged it up against the bait. You could get something out of it. I mean, I don't know. If
I've heard people like Dennis. Well, there was a guy, Dennis, that made, would cast like a new bill and glue them in there and make them work, I guess. But, I don't know, one of them deals. There's a lot of stick baits out anymore. There's probably 5-6 different brands that work really good. So,
I think they all have their day, right? I mean,
definitely. I do too.
I've seen a Smithwick outfish a mega bass for sure.
Right.
On certain days, but and vice versa too, right? I mean,
definitely.
It can be either way depending on the day. It's not like it's all or nothing on the mega bass.
No, I mean, if it's fairly calm, the Smithwick, you can really throw it. If it's windy, it's kind of hard to throw them. They want to catch the wind a little bit.
Yeah.
Right.
Kind of hard to make a good, compared to like a mega bass or something where that weight system, you can really kind of really throw it in the wind, And I think, different rattles, Smithwick tends to go a little bit deeper, maybe. I don't know, what the difference is sometimes, but like you said, some days, a different bait will create all the bites.
Well, and how many mega bass do they see? They see a lot more mega bass than anything else.
Exactly. And I don't know if it's so much, probably seen them, but that sound, do they relate that same exact sound to certain things, Right.
Have you ever been in a boat guiding and had two clients, so yourself and two other clients all throwing different jerk baits or different baits that are the similar technique, but maybe different brands, and noticed, one person was catching them better than the other person? Have you ever had that experience?
Oh, all the time. It's kind of how we start out sometimes. I normally don't fish at all, when I'm guiding, unless we're kind of struggling or we're trying to figure out just what you're saying. What do they want? Do they want a color? Do they want a depth? Do they want a size, a sound? And we'll all throw different baits, And if the last guy in the back's catching them, that tells you right there, it wasn't the first bait, it was the right bait, and that'll really key in a lot of times, but yeah, that happens a lot. And we'll all three, just like you say, like someone up front will throw a Lucky Craft and throw Smithwick, throw a mega bass or a 6 cents or whatever. different baits, different color, different shade. And if one guy is catching, the majority of fish, well, that tells you it's obviously the bait,
Yeah, especially the person in the back.
Right. Oh, if the guy in the back's catching them, it's the bait, because they've already been by 2 other baits,
Well, he's just hoping that's the only one that's in the boat. So
right. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Yep. But
you want to get that one?
Oh, okay. Here's a question from
Brock's got a question.
Yeah, Brock's got a question. He says, can he tell us how summer fishing at Lake of the Ozarks will change this year, being that there isn't much water running like there has been in the past?
Right. I can tell you it's definitely going to change. I've already been able to tell a change this last couple of weeks. We're at the end of May, 1st of June, and by now a lot of fish are normally pulling out. They're getting set up on these points, ledges, bluffs, but we've got 0 water being pulled through the lake this year. Truman's down 2 foot, Ozarks is down 2 foot, and there's no rain in the forecast. So, normally we've got Truman might be 12 to 16 foot high, and they're waiting to start pulling that through the Ozarks. And they usually start that June 1st, sometime in that, and they start running, I don't know, they run 35 to 50,000 cubic foot through the lake, which is a noticeable current compared to right now. Like today, I think they ran like 800, which is basically nothing. Another thing, with no rain at all, the water is extremely clear. I mean, like down around the dam, you can see 8-10 foot down, that's just unheard of. I mean, for this time of year at the Ozarks. So I look for the fish to kind of not really set up on the points or these drops as good as they normally do, and they might go right into those brush piles. Like towards we get to the end of June and early July, normally these fish will scatter out. Once they shut that current down, they start settling into these brush piles. I kind of expect them to kind of skip a lot of that point stuff, them drop stuff, and go right into these brush piles. So that's kind of what we're kind of looking. I'm kind of with everybody else. I'm kind of waiting to see how it's going to affect. We're obviously out there a lot, and we try a lot of different things every day to see if these fish have progressed to that next pattern, what we're looking for. Like this morning, we're out and we fished some points, some bluffs, some ledges, and we just didn't have a lot of luck. And we went on back into the coves and around where they spawned, and we started catching fish. So there's nothing to move these fish from where they've spawned. Like normally once they spawn, they hang out there for a while, and then they move out to all this current and start feeding up and use that current, for feeding or comfort or whatever, where nothing's changed. There's nothing for them to leave where they're at. There's no reason. They're just hanging out, so I don't know. I'm kind of waiting to see myself what happens here the next couple of weeks.
Are you still, is the gizzard shad spawn still happening a little bit, or is it kind of winding down, or what's
a little bit? I would say that's kind of over with. That kind of it came on pretty quick. I'm not really seeing a lot of those big shad up around the bank, like they do. We're seeing big, large schools of shad, but a lot of them are further back in these coves and creeks. There's obviously a big bluegill spawn going on right now, and it's kind of winding down. But as far as the shad, I'd say it's probably close to being over with.
Because when we were down there at the last Anglers in Action, that shad spawn was going on hot and heavy. It was, they were flipping around on the bank, and there wasn't really, I didn't really see a lot of bass messing with the shallow shad, I know some of the guys in that MLF Invitational, Tom Reddington, I know he was targeting those gizzard shad, throwing a big swim bait and stuff, but I don't know if they were just the groups setting up to spawn or what, what the location and what phase the gizzard shad were in. But Mike and I, we saw gizzard shad everywhere, and we were just kept waiting for, you know, to see fish blowing up on them, and we never saw that. So I'm sure that was probably happening, you know, maybe the next week or throughout that week of the Anglers in Action. Or
right. Yeah, and you know, if the shad are present and they're shallow, there's always going to be some bass up there, you know, picking them off, you know. But I know what you're saying, you know, and I think a lot of times the current really will position these shad too and group these shad up. And, you know, like today I was out, you know, and man, there's shad everywhere. There's some on Main Lake. There's some back in the creeks. There's some back in the coves. I mean, they're shallow. They're over deep. They're all over the place.
I noticed that around here yesterday. I don't get to fish much anymore or coach baseball, so I'm 3 weeks away from my season winding down. But I finally got out to the lake yesterday, and man, I don't know. I haven't been there in a while, but I did not find any shad.
You didn't see any shad?
I mean, very few little groups here and there, but now I didn't fish shallow. I fished deep all day.
Right.
And you know, we fish a small lake around here, so I only have probably dozen and a half offshore spots that you'd say that are halfway decent.
Well, we have grass. Our lakes have grass, so a lot of times those shad will stay in the grass, and then
for protection, I guess, you know.
Yeah, but usually they will, like, especially when that water gets in like the mid 80s. I don't know, what was the water temp?
It touched 80 when I left.
Okay, so when it gets like 84, 85, it seems like a lot of those fish start to move out. The bait
they go like
out of
get
the grass.
nomadic and out in the middle.
Yeah, that's when I start seeing that.
So you had in the 80s today?
Yesterday it touched 80 at 3 o'clock when I left.
We got mid 70s, 75 to 78.
Yeah, see, and we're way behind. That could be some that's keeping these fish where they're at. There's no reason to leave. You know, water's still low 70s. You know, 72 to 74. You know, so it's still pretty cool. You know, there's no reason for them to head out to where it might be a little cooler or a little more current or more oxygen or whatever. I mean, conditions are pretty good right where they're at. So there's nothing to move them. You know.
Well, and by my calendar, we're still about a week away from it really going off.
Right.
I think next weekend will be really, really good.
Yeah, usually that first week of June, you really start seeing them.
If I look back at all the good pictures on my phone, it's first week of June.
I
go by pictures. You know, go back and look at all that stuff. It's like, well, I caught one here and I caught a couple good ones here, and then all of a sudden there's like
a bunch,
a crankbait laying on the deck with 2 of them hanging off of it. It's like, that was a good day.
Exactly, and that's how we all do it. You know, I mean, I look back at my photos usually, you know, and I'm like, oh yeah, okay, second week of June, this is where they're at. You know, first week of June or end of May or 1st of March. You know, you can look back and go, this is where these fish are always at every single year. And you know, we'll know here in the next week and a half if these fish are going to catch up to where they're normally at or not. So, you know, we'll just see. But the conditions are totally different this year than I can really say that I've ever remembered in the last probably 15 years of them being this way.
Well, it sounds like it's setting up to be what we had last year. We didn't have rain, you know, pretty well all summer last year. Our lakes were 4, 5, 6 foot low in some places.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, it was just rough.
Yeah.
So
when somebody,
I mean, it's just you know, I think some of these fish might set up a little bit deeper, you know, that water super clear like this, you know, similar to maybe some table rock stuff.
Yeah.
You know, a little swim bait has been a lot more productive this year already than some other baits, you know, and I think a lot of that's you know, just due to the water being really clear. You know, we caught some on top water this morning, and you can tell when these fish come up, you know, they're coming up from 8-10 foot to hit the top water, you know, and that's because they're seeing these baits, you know, where I don't think in the last few years they probably could see it.
Right.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I was talking to Matt Steffen after the MLF Invitationals, and it was his first time being on Lake of the Ozarks. He was talking about, you know, the water clarity and stuff, and I said, you know, for catching spawning fish on beds, this has probably been one of the better years as far as actually being able to see the beds out deeper, because a lot of the beds he was catching his fish off of were like 6 foot,
Yeah.
And I told him, normally it's like 3 to 4 foot of visibility, kind of stained and stuff. But this year has been super clear. And you're saying 10 foot down by the dam. I mean, that's really,
I mean, it's
really abnormal.
It's totally different. Someone have a fish hooked and I'm going to wait to net it, and I can look down there and see the bait, in the fish's mouth down there 6-8 foot, and you're just not used to that. You're just not here. It's kind of like I said, like what you're used to, maybe at Table Rock. You see them big fish, down there ways, and and here at the Ozarks, normally we might have 2 foot visibility, at best, but it's totally different this year for sure.
Yeah, it makes you want to say, "Where's my lake? What happened to my lake?"
Exactly, and that's
this
where
is not my lake.
And the last several years, we've had a lot of different things kind of going on at the lake. Fluctuation in either the water, the color, the amount of current, not so much the amount, but when they pull it. Like they'll pull it in November and December really hard, where it's normally they don't do that. The temperature we might freeze up 3-4 inches of ice compared to like this year. It barely got into the 30s at all, so I think these fish are just kind of changing the way they're setting up and acting and feeding. And it's just, we kind of got to catch up to it. Like we were talking, normally we can look at our calendar or our notes and say, okay, first week of June, here's where they're going to be. Well, we kind of got to go back and refigure some things out, because that ain't necessarily going to be true this year.
Right.
Yeah.
Got to call an audible on that one. I remember.
Right.
That was last year for us.
You got to fish the conditions.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
You really do.
You're exactly right. You gotta you gotta fish the conditions and refocus and figure it out, instead of just kind of assuming this is going to work, So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see here this next month anyway.
For everybody that's on here, we are going to be doing a giveaway here in a little while. The way the giveaway works is sometime during the stream, we'll make a reference to Sasquatch. When you hear that reference, guess a number between 1 and 200. Jim's already given us a number. So if you guess that number.
Like he made us guess the number.
Yeah, he was trying to make us guess the number. He's making it super hard. So Joey from Crock O Gator is going to give away a really nice Crock O Gator Bait Company prize package. And she always does it upright. So keep your ears peeled for that. I admire a guide. You're a guide. You've been doing it for a while. There's so many times when I'm out on the lake and I'm just trying to make a YouTube video. It's just me and my cameras, and I'm struggling. I'm not catching fish. I can't really get bites. I admire people like yourself that have paying clients in the boat, and there are times when the fishing is just difficult, but you have to find fish because that's part of your job. So that's, the times like that. I've actually told my friends before, on the way home, I'm like, I'm glad I'm not a guide. I'm just glad I'm not a guide. So
yeah, and it's you're exactly right. People are paying you to put them on fish or catch fish, and I take it personal. I know Denise takes it very personal. That's what we're paid, being paid to do. So we're going to do everything we can to catch some fish. And a lot of times we'll go through a few patterns, we'll usually figure it out. And some days we just go for numbers, you know what I'm saying? They may not be a real big fish, but they're fun and it fills the day, and we catch a lot of fish, everybody wants to catch some 3 to 5 pounders. Some days they cooperate, but we all know a lot of days they don't, so we do what we have to do, and we go through a lot of different baits to make that happen,
So what would you say majority of your clients are seeking? One of the questions I had was, what would a client ask their guide? Like what are some of the questions that a client should ask their guide? And then what do your clients typically look for? Are there more people that like to just catch numbers and have a good time, or do you have people that want to catch, a 5-pound bass, or they're people that maybe are scouting for tournaments? Do you get
Oh,
like a mix of everything?
All of the above, and we try to really, talk with our clients prior to the trip to see what they're wanting and what they're after. We'll get people that move from another lake to the Ozarks and they're not accustomed to fishing the Ozarks, but they're pretty good fishermen. So they're like, just kind of fill us in on how you guys go about fishing things, and we can do that. You might get people come down visiting a lake from another state. They've got a couple kids and they just want to go out and catch some fish and have fun, so that's a different style of fishing. Obviously you're not going to go tell them to flip, a Crock Gator jig up underneath a dock, 3 foot backed up underneath her. That's just not going to happen, but we can go do some open water stuff and catch a lot of fish. So I guess, the real answer is just, we kind of read our clients and ask our clients, what would you like to get out of this? We'll have even some of them say, hey, I don't fish a jig. Kind of show me how you fish a jig, how you work it, where you try to put it, same thing with a top water or like we talked about, June is a good ledge, a ledge bite, bluff bite. And people say, hey, I don't fish that. Let's take me out and show me how to do that. So it's kind of all over the place, but we just try to, fulfill what they're trying to get out of it, out of the trip.
So what do you give a client who really has minimal fishing experience? Say there's a family from out of town, or they're just vacationing and they maybe fish once a year, if that. What's the bait that you would start them with? Right.
And it's the same bait I tell everybody, down here. People say, I'll see them wherever, tackle store or on the water. Hey, we're struggling. What's going on? You take a 1/4 ounce Crock Gator shaky pro head and put you one of the new DC worms on it, or maybe a mag finesse worm. Zoom mag finesse is great. And you just start throwing it alongside docks and just dragging it and hopping it, and you're going to catch fish. Everybody knows shaky head will catch a fish anywhere in this country. It's probably one of the easiest and most effective baits you can throw. The hooks are real forgiving. You can just kind of tense up on it and they usually hook themselves. That's probably our number one bait, just a shaky head. I always tell people, if you not really experienced and you're trying to learn, rig it up on a spinning rod and reel, put you some high vis yellow line, braid, and then put you about a 10-12 foot leader on it. And when you cast that thing out there, man, that line just really shows up, and you'll see every little bite. If a fish picks up, moves off, one way or the other, you'll see that line move. It just really keys you in on the bites, and it really, allows people to pick up the bite a lot quicker. That's probably number one bait. The second one that we throw a lot is just a small swim bait. There's a lot of them out there. We throw a little Kitech a lot, like a 3-inch or 3.5-inch Kitech on an 1/8 ounce head. I mean, we're talking small, but you can throw it anywhere and you'll catch bass, and you'll catch them all day long. You can catch them up by the banks. You can catch them by big rocks. You can catch them by docks corners in the shade. I mean, if they're schooling, if fish come up and schooling, you throw a little swim bait over there anywhere close, you're going to catch a fish. So it's baits like that are easy to throw. You can't work them wrong. On a shaky head, you can't work it too slow. So we always tell them, throw it out there, let it hit the bottom, make sure you're in good contact, and just drag it and hop it, and just keep doing that. You're gonna know when a fish picks it up. And then that swim bait, it's got an open hook. You throw it out, you're reeling it. You're just steady reeling it. One grabs it, they hit it hard. There's no doubt you got a bite. And then the other thing would be, like we talked, like a Chug Bug. Everybody loves top water. I don't care if it's a 12-inch Kentucky. If you throw a Chug Bug out there and you're popping on, and fish comes up and hits that Chug Bug, it's fun. I don't care who you are, what size that fish is. You can do that all day long here at the Ozarks and catch fish on the tougher conditions. you throw a Chug Bug out there around some of these docks, and you're going to catch fish. And just the other day, I think it was Thursday trip, we caught 2 of them at the same time on Chug Bug, 1 on each hook. And that's just a blast.
Yeah.
That's
well, it's such a visual bite. It's like
right.
You don't there's no guessing whether you got a bite. You see
exactly. And a lot of times if they throw it out there and they come up and hit that Chug Bug and they miss it, you just keep working it. That fish will come back until it gets the bait. I mean, they just keep coming back. Or them Kentuckys, they'll come out in a group of 3 to 6 sometimes, and one of them misses it and the other 2 are chasing it, so they'll chase that thing all the way back to the boat.
Yeah, it's a great bait for sure.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, what color worms should somebody be putting on shaky head?
Just, keep it simple. I said that I throw blackheads, a black shaky head, and I'll throw a green pumpkin, usually green pumpkin candy, worm, whatever color worm, whatever style worm, whatever brand worm. Just keep it simple. Throw a green pumpkin. If it's a cloudy, overcast day or dirty water, just stay with green pumpkin. Don't worry about it. If you got sun or it's a little clear, I'll throw something with a little more flake, like your watermelon red or green pumpkin red, green pumpkin candy, something that might pick up some of that sunlight, or a little flash that might get you, generate you a little more bites. But like I said, just keep it simple. Don't get too overwhelmed with all the colors and things out there. Put you on a 1/4 ounce shaky head, and put you on a little green pumpkin worm and just start fishing it. You're going to catch fish.
Don't sleep on the June bug either. A June bug's a good color down there.
Oh yeah, June bug's great. I used to go June bug. Like I said, if it's cloudy, overcast, or that dirty water, a June bug's really good for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. I haven't tried that.
If you're fishing, here at the Ozarks, maybe not this year, but if you're fishing 10 foot or deeper, they're not seeing that color, that bait. They're seeing a silhouette. We've dove down here, and we've got our black water dive certificates because you can't see anything down here. So you get down there 10 foot, you can't see your hand in front of your face. So
really,
I don't know how. Like I said though, this year, there's a lot more sun penetration, a lot deeper because that water's so clear. But on a normal year, I just don't see it making a whole lot of a whole lot of difference. It's more us, what we're comfortable with, our confidence bait. Keep throwing that one.
All right, we got a couple questions.
Yeah.
Phil says, do you know anything about the catfish in the Niangua, why they have fungus growing on them? He said he saw a bunch on the surface that looked terrible.
Really? Huh. I haven't heard anything about that. That would be a question for, a biologist or a conservationist or something. I haven't heard anything about that. I don't know if it might be some low oxygen because there's not a lot of current running, like we're used to, a heavy current, a lot of oxygen. That's really good for these fish, keeps them healthy. It may be something with that. I don't really know the answer to that one other than, like this year we've had a lot more moss. I guess you'd call it moss, kind of mossy seaweed.
Yeah.
Seaweed, just that green kind of fuzzy.
An algae kind of thing.
Yeah. Slimy.
Like like you talk about a table rock a lot of time in clear lakes. But we had a lot of it this year here at the lake. So I don't know. I might reach out to some people and see if anyone else is hearing or seeing anything like that.
Bradley wants to know any recommendations on deep cranking at Lake of the Ozarks in June.
Well, like I said, normal when we've got current, you go out on a long point, a point with a long ridge on it, where that current hits that one side of the ridge and flows over the top of it. And you throw, a DD22 out there, or maybe one that goes down, 12 foot for some of them suspended fish, or like I said, a deeper one, it might get down to the top of that ridge, and throw up into the current and bring it retrieve it the same way the current would be flowing through the lake, will generally work great. It's the same thing with a swim bait or a worm or anything else. Right now, like I said, we're going back to there's just no current. You'll get a lot of fish still just go suspend out off of these points. These long points generally are your best ones that they go out a long ways and then they'll drop off into the old river channel. And you can usually start fairly close to the bank and throw over that ridge and bring that bait so it's on the one side of the ridge. It comes up that ridge, kind of starts digging into the top of that ridge, and then it breaks off on the other side of the ridge. And that's usually where you'll get your bites when it starts digging in them rocks. And then as soon as it breaks loose from them rocks, that's usually when a fish will grab it.
Yeah. So on your crankbaits, are you using kind of standard colors? Does the chartreuse blue back crankbait work there at Lake of the Ozarks, or are you just staying like gizzard shad colors or mixing it up?
I mean, watercolor, sun, shade,
yep.
All that. But, just like a little swim bait the other day, we were throwing just a shad color one. It just wasn't getting the bites, we thought. And we switched up to a chartreuse and blue one, and it just started getting bites just way better than the other. So, normal year, I'd say, just stick with something kind of shad color, what have you. But with this clear water, obviously they're seeing it better. They're going to, it may look chartreuse and blue to us, but in that water, you get down 10, 12 foot and the way it reflects sun or something, it may look different down there. But definitely, if you're not getting bites on just a shad color, maybe a white one with black stripes and a black back, something like that, just a standard, I think that's called like a splatter bass, something like that, switch up to something else, totally different, like I was saying, a chartreuse and blue, there's a chartreuse and purple that works real good, just kind of different colors. If you don't get a bite within an hour on a bait color down here at the Ozarks, switch it up and see if you can't generate some bites.
Well, it sounds like if you haven't had a bite on Lake of the Ozarks, you better be throwing a shaky head.
Right. No, but like here this morning, we threw shaky heads around quite a bit, and it was kind of slow. We were catching some fish, and we switched and started throwing a half-ounce zapper with like a big paddle, I think one of us was throwing that net bait, peck a chunk, and I was throwing the was that Strike King Menace. Both of them kind of kicked pretty good. Mm-hmm. And boy, we really started getting the bites. So it was definitely a bait deal this morning, and it has been the last week. You'd think you'd flip a little shaky head in there and they'd grab it right away, but today they wanted a jig.
What's your time frame for bait rotation? I mean, as a guide, you're struggling going down the bank, doing whatever. If you're fishing offshore,
right?
What's your bait rotation look like? What's the time frame that you give a bait?
And obviously it depends on how I feel a person's working the bait. If I think they're working it right, and putting it in the right place and working it right, within 45 minutes to an hour, if you're not getting bites, it's time to switch things up. Now some days it takes a little longer to either get someone accustomed to how I feel like they need to be working it, so that has a lot to do with shaky heads or jigs, really any bait. If it's not being worked exactly right, it may not generate the bites, but really I would say within an hour, if you're not getting a bite within an hour, whether it be a shaky head or a top water or jig or crankbait, it's time to change or switch things up, either location, color, or baits.
Yeah, and that's huge what you said about they weren't biting the shaky head, but they were on the jig. You see that happen. That happens a lot. Sometimes you'll think, well, they're just not biting on the bottom, but a lot of times you just got to change the profile. Right,
and like a shaky head, it'll enter the water and just go straight to the bottom. Where a jig with a lot of movement trailer, it kind of swims, kicks, vibrates. Yeah. That may be what it takes to get a bite. Daniel
T says he He caught his biggest fish today on the smallest bait.
Yeah.
He got his smallest bass on his biggest bait.
Ain't that's funny how that happens. And that he's right. You know, a lot of times, you put a full size brush hog, and you'll catch an 8-inch bass, and you're like, what? How? I don't even know how he got it in his mouth, And the other day I had a young guy, and it was kind of towards the end of the trip, and we were just kind of looking for numbers at this point, and he threw out a little 3-inch Kitech, what we throw for a crappie down here. And he caught one about 4 pounds, a little over 4 pounds on that little bitty swim bait on a little crappie rig. So it's like sometimes you just leaves you scratching your head, But I think the fish are just opportunists. The bait's there, it looks real. I will say, obviously around them little, when he caught that fish on that little swim bait, there was a lot of little shad about that same size right there in that area. So. Like I said, it's just kind of opportunity. Fish was in there feeding on them shad, and his little swim bait, entered the water right there by that fish.
Yeah, I've done that so many times. Like just throwing a 4-inch Cinco type bait on a shaky head and catching 2-pounders, 2.5 pounders.
Yeah.
Take it off and you put an old monster, like a 10.5-inch worm.
Yeah.
And you put a 1-pounder. A 12-incher.
Right. Worm's bigger than the fish is.
Yeah.
Right. It's just sometimes it how fishing is. Sometimes it makes all perfect sense and everything works great, just like it's supposed to, textbook. And then other times you're like, let's just go try to catch some fish on these little baits, and you catch big ones. So it's still their world. We're just trying to figure them out.
Do you have any funny guide trips, like memorable guide trips, the good, the bad, the ugly, something that's happened that kind of stands out? Because, you're out there a lot and you get all different kinds of people and you're in all different situations. There's boat traffic some days. There's storms that come in. There's, people get excited. There might be, somebody kicks a rod over the boat, or, maybe somebody catches the biggest fish of their life. I'm sure you got
guide stories are always the best.
Yeah, you run across all different kinds of things out there, and I'm sure you got something that jumps into your mind.
Man, I don't know. When you say like crazy stuff, I don't know. Just these days where you can't do anything wrong, and it makes you look like you're better than you really are, But they're throwing out there and they're catching 2 at a time on chug bugs, and they're both got doubles, and they've got 2 on each hook. And they're bringing in these keeper fish like that, and you're like, man, those are great trips. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. It's just, the kid trips are great. I get a lot of trips. I say a lot of trips where it's always kind of fun. I don't want to rat out none of my customers, but they'll come and they'll bring the wife, or even 2 guys will show up, and one guy will say, hey, I'm bringing my boss. He's not a fisherman. If he can just catch a fish, and the guy will say, I'm a really good fisherman. I can fish. And the boss or the wife or whoever ends up just out catching them, 3-4 to 1. And they're not supposed to be the fisherman. They're just yanking them in left and right. And the one that's supposed to be the fisherman is just not catching any fish. And you can see them visibly just getting frustrated, because they're like, I brought them along to teach them how to fish because I can fish, and they're just catching them, So I don't know. There's all kind of stuff that happens out there, It actually happened to me last year. A couple guys, we're guiding. These guys could fish, and I think they're getting ready for a tournament, and I was swimming a jig. And I told them, I'm like, just keep an eye on that jig, and here's how we'll swim it, and they'll come up and they'll really hit it. And then a fish come up and hit that jig and yank that whole rod, everything right out of my hand. We're in 70 foot of water, and off that rod went, brand new Lew's reel, brand new Falcon rod, and there it goes, and I spun that live scope around, and you can see the rod going down, with the fish on the live scope. And it was like, well, something like that is about how they'll hit you, but hang on to your rod, But there's always something that happens out there, it seems like. you know.
Yeah.
But it's all fun. It's all good. We try to make every trip is a fun trip. You know, it's serious, but it's not serious. You know, we're here to have a good time. So that's what we try to do.
So you do anything from beginner all the way to advanced?
Absolutely. Yep. We do a lot of all that, you know. We've got one in particular guy said, you know, he was 65, 66. He's like, I've never fished in my life. I just retired. I want to learn to fish. Well, you know, you want to say you ain't got enough time at this point, but you know, they come out and we go over just the basics. I mean, the very basics, and keep it simple, and they start catching fish, and then they can go back out and catch fish like that all day, you know. So and then you have guys come down here for there was one here earlier this spring. I forget what circuit it was, but it was all over the nation. And the guys come down and you ain't never been in the Ozarks. So I took them out and we got them dialed into to a good spring pattern. So he could, you know, he'd come down and compete. You know, the guy could fish. He was a real good fisherman. But, you know, so we'll get everything from, you know, guys will bring their own rods and reels, tackle, and then people who've never, they're 60 years old, they've never made a cast. Or, you know, 5, 6, 7-year-olds looking to catch their very first bass. You know, that's always fun too. So it's all over the whole gamut, really.
That's awesome. And you know, Gabe and I have talked about this a lot with neither one of us are guides, but you know, we've had that conversation on the way home from the lakes. It's like, you know, I'm glad we're not guides today. He mentioned that earlier.
Yeah.
But you know, we forget a lot of times that some folks just want to catch a fish. Some folks just want to go out and catch some time to themselves where they can relax.
Right.
Where we go out to the lake and it's usually business for us, right?
Yep.
Like we have a goal in mind and that's what we're going to do that day.
Mm-hmm.
And if it doesn't go our way, we're usually not the happiest campers at the end of the day. When it goes our way, it's great. And you feel like you said earlier, you feel like you're better than you really are.
Right.
But we forget a lot of times that, you know, we're blessed that we get to go out and fish on a daily basis, where some of these folks, they may not have a boat. They may not have access to all this. And they just want to go out and get a little tug on the end of the line and maybe just wet a line and not have to worry about work or
not have to worry about driving their boat around. Like, when you hire a guide, your guide's taking you around. You're just kind of chill. You're just
right. There's a lot of people. You know how it can be if you're up front, it's kind of wavy, or you're around docks, or you're trying to concentrate on fishing. You're up there trying to work the trolling motor, keep the boat positioned and all that, and then also fish. You know, it can be a challenge sometimes if you're not used to it compared to, you know, I'm standing up there, I'm doing all the work, and then all they've got to do is concentrate on fishing, you know, and you know, and the Ozarks, we got a lot of homes, a lot of developed areas, but we got a lot of stuff that's, you know, like when we're fishing bluffs, it's just, there's a lot of just undisturbed stuff, you know. We see a lot of eagles, you see a lot of animals, you just see a lot of stuff that just is kind of therapeutic for people to come down and get away and just fish, you know, and all they want to do is catch a fish sometimes, and we can do that. We can catch fish, and it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, we forget how good we got it sometimes, don't we?
Right. You know, I mean, you know, like you said, you know, sometimes, you know, when we're fishing these tournaments and we get so involved in them, and you set up a pattern and you're on a solid pattern and you're like, I got this one, you know, and then things change and, you know, you lose a fish and it's all business, and, you know, and you don't really want to talk to anyone until about Wednesday after a Saturday tournament, you know, when it don't go just right, you know, because, and you forget about what it's all about sometimes, just because, you know, tournaments are serious and you're trying to do your best and you're trying to, you know, whatever it is, you know, and sometimes you forget, and then we get to take these clients out that, you know, they catch, you know, a 15-inch bass and it's their biggest fish ever, and they're thrilled to death. And, you know, it kind of brings you back to reality of sometimes we need to slow down and just enjoy it.
That's what I love about taking my kid fishing, because it's the next fish is always the best one, right?
Yeah.
Mine got to fish his first tournament this year.
Oh yeah.
And he caught one of our biggest fish of the day. I mean,
he'll remember that forever.
Oh, absolutely. That's better than any video game he's ever played. It's better than any ball tournaments he's ever been in. That was the day for him, and he'll remember that one. He still talks about it to this day. And I love that. I love seeing that excitement that we catch a 4-pounder and we usually just swing her in the boat and we go okay, but he catches a 4-pounder and he can't wait to open that live well and check on it again to make sure it's still in there. It's like, buddy, he's swimming to the drain hole, I promise.
Exactly. I got last week I had a client, a grandpa and a grandson, and I've got several like this, and I've watched them grow up. The kids, they start fishing, they might be 12 and they're fishing with grandpa, and now these kids are going off to college, and every year they've come down, every single year, and they have a little friendly competition, and it's just a lot of fun, when you see that, and it's year after year, and you watch all these kids grow up, and now they're in college, or even some of them are coming back. They've got their own kids,
Right. Yeah, that's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
So what's the difference in guiding and tournament fishing? Because there's a lot of guys and gals that are guides, and they also fish tournaments. It's got to be a different mindset. So what are some of the contrasts between fishing a tournament and going out and guiding somebody? Are you targeting different kind of fish, or how's that go?
I mean, a lot of times, it's tournament fish. You're looking for your 5 biggest, and I don't care if I only get 5 bites all day, if they're all the right bites, and they get you a good heavy bag of fish. Where guiding trips, if you only get 5 bites in a day on a guide trip, that's pretty slow. That's going to be slow for most people. So a lot of times we'll gear it towards numbers, a lot more numbers. A lot of action. If we're fishing for big fish and we fish for a while and we don't catch one, or we might catch one and it's pretty slow, we might switch it up a little bit and get some action for a while, to keep everybody and excited or enthused in it, and then we'll go back to bigger fish. We'll kind of jump back and forth, where tournament fish, like you said, obviously, I'll run 40, 50 miles and I don't think twice about it to go catch, fish. Obviously on guide trips, you're not going to run. You're not running a long ways with people and burning up time and gas and everything like that, So
that'd be a funny guide trip. You're like, we're going to run 60 miles.
Yeah. It'd be like an offshore trip, though. I mean, you think about, we joke about that, but those offshore trips down.
Oh, like deep sea fishing and stuff.
I mean, you got your first 2 hours of your guide trip is running.
You're right.
True.
You're exactly right. We just did that. And, we're like, we headed out and, we stopped and we caught some fish, and I thought, man, we didn't go anywhere, and there's like, oh, this is the bait, So, and then we took off, and like you said, we went, man, a half hour, 45 minutes and never stopped. I mean, way out. And then, you're like fishing out there, like you're saying. So it's kind of, I don't know. It's just, it goes back to kind of seeing what your client's wanting to, There's some people, they're perfectly fine. They're like you said earlier, I want to catch 4 or 5. I want to try to catch a big fish. Okay, let's do that. We're not going to catch many of them, but when you do catch one, it'll probably be a big one. So it's kind of always goes back to what the clients are looking for.
Daniel T has a question. He says, what is the biggest fish that one of your clients has caught?
Mm-hmm. I had a client catch a 7.2 one time on a jig.
Nice.
And it was one of those, like we had we call them corporate trips, we might get 8, 10, 12 guides, and then each boat, has 2 people in it, and then they have a tournament amongst themselves. The guides don't fish, and we'll go out and we'll fish for whatever it is, 4 hours, 6 hours, whatever. And then they'll bring back, and then they weigh their fish against the other employees or whatever it is. But either way, I had a guy flip a jig up in a stall and set the hook, and it ended up being 7 pounds 2 ounces. So it was a big one. It was a pretty memorable trip, and catch the way it all happened. There was a bunch of people on the dock, so they were cheering him on and clapping, and it fought, and I finally got it in the net, and obviously he got big fish, and he was the deal when they got back to the dock.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
What do you are you finding any numbers of smallmouth? Every once in a while you see a picture of somebody catching smallmouth on Lake of the Ozarks. Are they spread out over the lake, or do you have to just go in a certain section of the lake to maybe catch them?
Really, for unless you catch a released one, it's been hauled back to PB2 or another location, but usually they're generally way up the Glaze arm, way up the Niangua arm, either like the big Niangua up there by the spring, Tonka, or up the little Niangua has them. I've caught, man, I bet you I probably could count on one hand how many smallmouth I've caught in this lake in the last 25 years. They're just not, and I don't know why they don't take off, but they just don't, for whatever reason here.
Now they're on the other side of the
there's a lot of lake trout being caught, believe it or not.
In Lake of the Ozarks?
In the Ozarks, yeah.
Really?
Several lake trout. People will post on lake area happenings or post somewhere looking at another one, and they're catching these lake trout. So I don't know what the deal is with them.
Is it so? It's not rainbow. It's not rainbow trout. It's actual lake trout.
Well, that's a good question there.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. If it's a trout and it's in the lake, it's a lake trout. As far as
are they big? How big are they?
Well, there might be 14 to 16 inches.
Okay.
They're not giant, but they're big enough. They've caught them. So
right.
Interesting.
But I'd love to see the smallmouth in this lake take off. I guess it's at this point it's not going to happen. And I don't know why, but they're so much fun.
They tried that project over at Kincaid in Southern Illinois a handful of years ago with us, and the biologist over there said it was out of his 25-year career, it was his biggest failure.
Really?
Disappointment.
Our disappointment, yeah.
Right.
That they didn't take off.
Yeah, the
every
IDNR.
once in a while you still see a couple be brought in a weigh-in within the last couple years, but
yeah, and they actively stock them. The IDNR.
Did they ever come up with a reason why they didn't take?
I think it's the muskie population and the forage base. Muskie, the way he related, muskie's got a big mouth, a large mouth. It's got a big mouth. Small mouth is a small mouth, and it just can't feed enough to sustain the food chain, because he's you're number 3 at that point in the food chain. So
I guess a lot of smallmouth, they eat them little crawfish and little shad.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I don't know. There's got to be something else to it. It may be the acidity of the water. I don't know. I mean, it's kind of a mystery. And this lake looks like it could hold smallmouth. It's fairly deep. It's very clear. It's not uncommon to have 8 to 10 foot of visibility. It's got grass in it. It's got a lot of rock. It looks like a place where you catch smallmouth, and they just didn't take off for whatever reason.
Right.
So just the biography or the biology of the lake.
Living Missouri Outdoors says conservation says there's piranha at Lake of the Ozarks as well.
Yeah, what's the piranha situation like down there?
Piranhas, huh? Yeah, I haven't caught and run across any of them, but
keep your toes in the boat, folks. Keep your toes in the boat.
Yeah, I'm sure we would have heard about it by now.
Yeah, where was that? Somebody posted there's always a random Facebook post that pops up, a picture of an alligator on the bank, and then somebody says, this alligator was spotted at the local lake or something. And, you get 50% of the people fall for it, and then 50% are like, that's not that lake. That lake doesn't have grass in it, or that lake doesn't have cypress trees in it. Or
Exactly.
Brock, we didn't say the magic word.
We're getting ready to, though. We're getting ready to.
Jump in the gun a little bit. Don't get it started for us.
Right.
So, see what else I got here. Oh, what is your? It's kind of a generic question, but is there a bite that you look forward to every year? You got like a certain way you enjoy catching them more than other ways, or is it just whatever the fish are biting is how you like catching?
Yeah, I mean, I really enjoy, slow jig fishing, on just rock bank, kind of bluffy, rocky banks, and that's usually March, mid-March is probably one of my favorite bites. It's just kind of a slow, relaxing, really, work a bank over really good and slow, with a jig or a little swamp bug, but then again, you can't overlook the September, October, November topwater bite that comes around. To win tournaments, you're going to almost have to go out and throw a topwater or glide bait, something like that, or swim bait. That's a really good bait pattern that I look forward to every year. But the last several years, the June bite has been just an incredible bite for numbers and size, but like I said, this year, I don't know what to expect there. So it's kind of all over the place, but if I had to pick one, it's going to be probably late December, early January jig bite, or then again in March, mid-March, your jig swamp bug bite.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting. Like right now we just talked about, we're waiting for those fish to really gather up offshore. So
right.
That's our next bite that we're looking for. And then in the fall, we'll have a really good frog bite that'll start coming on.
Really?
And then, you got the jerk bait bite that happens in the winter.
That frog bite stays active for
several months.
It's like, and it seems like as the months go on, they get dumber and dumber and dumber. they don't get educated on that frog like they do on like offshore stuff. I don't know if it's the grass or what, but it just gets, as the water cools off and you catch more.
I think just more bait starts pulling in the grass,
right?
And they just get more aggressive, and they're feeding up. It's
they're getting ready for that.
It's like the opposite of the respawn kind of thing. Right. It's the winter feed bag, the fall feed bag, and
plus it's a natural. A frog on the mats is just a natural. They're not going to get wise to that, like they might, like say the Alabama rig, or a crankbait or certain things. They might get wise to that, but something really supernatural like a slow moving jig on the bottom. Or like you said, a frog on a mat. They just don't get used to that. That's
they
why
don't get a good look at that frog either, right?
Right. They've been used. We've been using these for forever, and the fish never get keen to them.
They seem like they don't get used to a chatterbait either for whatever reason. That blows me away. Like a chatterbait.
It's just such a reaction bite. It's just out of instinct they react to it. Maybe.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, it blows me away. You can still. Just about any time, if you put a chatterbait in your hand and you throw it for 30 or 45 minutes,
right,
you're going to get a bite or two. It
has times of the year that it prevails.
Yeah, there's times when you'll get in 45 minutes you'll get 10 or 15 bites, but usually even on a tough day you can cover enough water with a chatterbait, and now you might have to fish it out a little deeper. You might have to, instead of fishing 0 to 5, you might have to drop from 5 to 8. Get a little bit deeper, but. They don't seem like they get used to that. I mean, they get sort of used to it, but it's not like a rattle trap. Like a rattle trap, the lipless, they get used to that pretty quick. 5XD or 6XD, they get pinned a couple times with that, and it kind of goes away.
Right.
It's that we were talking about that earlier with megabass. It's that sound. They hear that sound. They hear that sound, and they relate that sound to Harold and Fred getting
right.
pulled towards the light.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and like the stick bait, you're rattling it and you're moving it, and it's sitting still. So they get a good look at it. They hear it. They come up and they approach it and they see it and they detect it's not real. I don't know. They say a fish's memory is 20 minutes or something, but you can't tell me they don't. Them bigger fish, they know the difference.
Yeah,
you
they know. They
Yep.
know. I was fishing last Monday, and I found a school, and I caught them pretty good on the underspin, which I'll be having a video coming out sometime pretty soon once I get time to edit. But I was catching them really good on the underspin, and then I'm like, I'm gonna throw a jerkbait in there. Jerkbait's something that I'm trying to keep on the deck of my boat throughout the year, because typically, you know, it's like a cold water deal for me, and then I kind of put it away because there's all these other new baits that come into play, and I want to start playing around with them. So then I'm kind of burnt out on a jerkbait by late March or early April. But I've been purposely keeping it on the deck of my boat, especially when I'm looking for these schools of post spawners. And I found this nice little group of bass, and I caught some on an underspin, and I threw a jerkbait out there, and I've got live scope, which is really cool to watch how the fish respond to different baits. So I'm jerking this jerkbait down there, and I'm jerking it, you know, like I'm hitting it like 1, 2, and then I'm resting for just a half a second, and I'm hitting it again. So it's moving fairly fast. I'm like jerk, 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 fairly fast. But they were coming up to it, and then they were coming up to it, and they wouldn't commit. So I was starting to pull them off this point, and I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna reel it in basically and put it down because I'm pulling all the fish off the point. So I started jerking it really fast, and they just smashed it. They all came up to it and just crushed it. And then, you know, they followed it in. A lot of them followed it in, but I got this fish off, and they kind of started loading up. And some of the school was still up there. I didn't pull the whole school off, but I made that cast again, and I'm jerking. And as I'm jerking that jerkbait through there, they got the heck out of the way that second time. It was crazy. and I would have never known that had I not been on forward facing sonar, but it had to be the sound. You know, the sound, they're relating that sound to seeing one of their buddies just get hooked. And that fish, when I threw him back in the water, I was only probably 50 feet from the school. So I'm sure that fish swam back down and maybe into the same school, and kind of, you know, they got chemicals that they release when they're, you know, fear chemicals or whatever, stress hormones. I'm sure there was something like that going on, because that same bait that just got clobbered by, there was like 10 bass trying to get it. They didn't want nothing to do with it. They got the heck out of Dodge, and they just separated. But it's cool to see that. And there are certain baits that, you know, the sound will repel them. If they get hooked a couple times, they're done with it. But something like a swim bait, a lot of times it doesn't have any sound. Like a swim jig is another one that's not got a lot of, it doesn't have a lot of thump. It doesn't have the flash. It's just got a nice kind of stealthy, something like a hair jig. Hair jig's another one. It's just kind of sneaky. Some of those baits, they don't seem to really get used to those baits, but they will get.
That's the same with, you know, there's a lot of different talks, you know, on rattles and jigs, you know, and I've always thought the same, you know, especially pre-fishing. If you're using a rattle in your jig and you yank on a fish, you know, is he going to remember the jig, or is he going to remember that rattle? You know, that noise, you know? So I don't know. I believe a lot in that, the noise being a fear factor, or they, you know, make that a connection that noise is what created the danger for him last time.
Right.
Yeah, I don't really fish a jig with a rattle anymore. I used to all the time. I mean, I used to always put a worm rattle in my plastics.
Yeah. I can't tell you the last time I've put a rattle on my jig. You know, I just don't, you know. Yeah. And there's guys out there who swear by them, you know, but
it's all what you got confidence in, though, right? I mean, we talked about it earlier. It gets down to a certain level. Color really doesn't make that big of a difference.
You know, and if, you know, your jig's hitting them rocks, you know, that's making noise. You know, it's bouncing on them rocks. It's making noise, you know. So I don't know. You know, you try to figure it out. I think we really overthink this fishing sometimes. You know, like you said, that the live scope has just really brought a lot of stuff to light as far as what's going on under the water, you know, under the surface, where before we'd say, well, man, they're just not here. They're gone. But now you can look and you're like, well, they're there. I can see them. They're following my bait. They follow it and they come up and nip at it, or they move around. They just not biting it. So we either got to like you said, change speed, reaction, jerk it quicker, slow it down, slow the fall down, the color, whatever. You know, you can go through it shrinks your process down as far as what you have to do to get bites.
Yeah, you were talking about the client that was 65 and he was just starting to fish.
Yeah.
If he's got the money, that could be one of the best investments that he can make, is getting a live scope. And
oh yeah,
I know unfortunately you're going to be bypassing a lot of the fundamentals and the hard-earned time on the water. But if you've got a limited time and you really want to learn how fish react, that forward-facing sonar it's something special for sure.
It's everything for, like you said, you know, it's taken us 25, 30 years to learn this stuff, figure it out. Well, now you can watch, you know, you can watch your swim bait on the live scope. You think you're reeling it slow, and I'm in the strike zone. When then I see it on my screen, I'm like, I'm you know, 15 foot above the fish. I'm nowhere close where I thought I was. Right. You know, I got to slow it down, or, you know, whatever, you know, or how the fish will react or move. Like you said, I've seen it with crappie. You shoot a crappie jig in there and you watch it go down to the fish and they spread out. The jig goes through them and they come back together. You know, you're like, well, no doubt that ain't the right color, you know, or what have you, you know.
You know, you say after 25, 30 years of doing this, and we've all been doing it a long, long time.
Yeah.
We thought we knew what they were doing. That's the big key. We thought that we knew what these fish were doing. That we had to move a jerkbait in January at a snail's pace to get them to bite. Heck no, I can reel that jerkbait, snap that jerkbait just as fast as I do in January as I do in June, and they're still going to come up and eat that.
There's
fish.
A lot of times when you can, but I've also seen it where letting it sink super slow, like above the fish. I mean, just dead, like letting it sink for 20 seconds.
Yeah.
Right.
And then the fish comes out and grabs it.
Right.
You know, so you got those extremes, but I think,
but you would have never done that before. Like,
no,
make a cast and just let it fall.
Because you don't know that you don't know that it's falling right towards the fish.
Right.
You know, I'm thinking of I caught about a 5.5 pounder this winter, and I was casting out in about 20 foot of water, and there was a little ball of shad down there, and there was just real bright return. It was either a striper or a big largemouth, and he would kind of come in. You know, there's a ball of shad, and he'd kind of go into the shad, and you wouldn't see him, and then he'd kind of come back out, and you could see him. So I cast out above, jerked it down, and when I got right above him, I just let it sink, and it literally sank for like 20 seconds. And he was in the shad, and when that thing got right by the shad, he just kind of came out, and my line just jumped. It was crazy, but I had to be stupid patient to let that thing sink for that long. Right. But I was watching it go down. If I wasn't watching it, there's no way I'd be able to do that, because
you just found a needle in the haystack.
Yeah, I mean, exactly.
2,000 acre lake, and you found one little spot of fish that let me out.
Another good example of that is we do it a lot with like fishing the jig, you know, and you're not getting bites. You're like, well, they're not on the bottom, they must be suspended. You throw a jerkbait out there and you jerk it down, and you're watching that jerkbait, and the fish comes off of the bottom and hits that jerkbait, and you're like, what? Why won't they hit the jig? You know, I see them come off of the bottom to come up and hit that jerkbait, but you know, it's just one of them deals. It's shown you a lot of, like you said, you know, when I grown up, it was like you didn't throw a jig till it was 50 degrees. You know, you wouldn't catch them. Now we're throwing a jig when it's, you know, 36 degrees and catching them. You know, it don't matter. You know, it's whatever mood they're in, I guess.
We proved all those theories wrong from yesterday.
Yeah, we were just talking about yesterday. Those fish suck to the bottom too. When that boat goes by and you're side scanning them, you're coming through an area. There's no fish there, you know, according to your side scan, even though you might see some bait. But if you stop and you put your trolling motor down and you wait about 10 minutes and you're live scoping around, all of a sudden you start seeing fish. I mean, I really think they hear that motor and they straight down to the bottom until you pass.
And I've seen them on certain days, you know, even like the live scope, it doesn't affect them at all. You can throw at them and watch them grab it. And other days, you pan over and kind of flash them with that live scope. They'll go to the bottom or they'll move. Exactly. You can't. There's something. They pick it up on their horizontal line, or I don't know what it is, but there's times where they definitely can sense it.
Yep, I've been seeing that a lot. They'll just they'll just glide down to the bottom like real slow, and then they disappear. And that's you know what happened. They felt that beam.
They just go away.
Yeah,
crazy.
You know, so
yeah, Daniel, that chatterbait. I've had a couple people say that chatterbait wasn't on this year for them, and it's a lot of it is, I think it's the day you're out there. Maybe if you go 1 day a week, that one day you might throw that chatterbait, and they're just, maybe they're not going to bite it. I'm not saying they're always going to bite a chatterbait, but then the very next day, if you went, they might just smash it. So I think sometimes there's a little run of days that we go, and they're not biting those certain baits. And in our mind, we're like, well, they're just not biting that this year. Where maybe if you would just flip forward 2 days and got in that same rotation, you might have got on them like that.
When there's a resurgence of older baits too, and not that a spinnerbait is an old bait, but I mean, there for a while, you didn't hear anything about a spinnerbait. Now you're starting to hear more about spinnerbaits and different baits.
Man, I've never quit throwing a spinnerbait.
I haven't either. I've always had almost every trip. I cut one off yesterday.
Yeah, it's a fish catching
just
bait,
because I was fishing different style, but there's always a spinnerbait tied on or laying in the bottom of the boat somewhere.
Right. But you're right. We kind of tend to sometimes get off certain baits because there's new ones come up, and whatever, you can throw a crankbait or a spinnerbait at the same day, or different baits. For whatever reason, we sometimes get away from them, but then you start throwing them again, and it reminds you how effective they are.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thanks, Frank. I appreciate that. He said the new house looks good. I posted a picture of our house today.
Yeah, I meant to say something. That looked really nice. Really nice home.
Thank you. They just cut the hay off of it, and they bailed it yesterday. And I was pulling in the driveway because we're not living there. We're still working on it. As I pulled in the driveway, there was these big round bells just kind of scattered.
Yeah.
That's a really cool picture. So I got out
kind of snap. Yeah, that's neat. Them big round bales like that. Yeah.
And I've never seen them do that. I've seen that little the rake. That's what they call it. Yeah. I've seen them pulling that rake down the road, but I'm like, how does that work? And I got to watch them. It comes down like this, and it just throws it up in a big pile.
Yeah, right to the center. So when they pull over the baler
straddles it, and then every once in a while he stops, and then here comes this big. It looks like a chicken, and an egg.
Laying an egg.
This big old round bell comes out.
Right.
And he moves on. But I sat there for off and on for an hour yesterday, just watching them do that.
Watching it, kind of cool.
So you're a little more out in the country now, right?
Oh yeah.
You got some woods next to your house?
I really don't. It's just wide open.
It's beautiful. You got a lake though.
I got about pond, right? A half-acre lake, maybe.
Nice.
My father-in-law's got a half-acre lake.
Are you expand that one?
It's fixing to be a really good lake, like
a little test pond.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm gonna test lake, probably. Yeah. Test lures and things. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's going to change out there.
So, is there going to be any Sasquatch sightings at the new house?
I don't know. That's what I was going to ask. I was going to ask Jim if you've ever got that EMT call late at night where some lady says she calls 911 and 911 asks, "What's your emergency?" And they say, "I just had a Sasquatch bit my leg in the middle of the night." And then you get the call from 911. Jim, we got kind of a strange one for you. This lady just got harassed by a Sasquatch.
That happens more than you would think.
I would be surprised.
Yeah. Right.
Is there any Sasquatch lore down there in that area? Have you heard any stories or rumors or anything like that?
No, I mean the best, closest thing is the black bear. I guess we've had, last few years we've had quite a few black bear sightings down here.
Yeah, they're really making there's a big population of black bears now in Missouri. We got them around here quite a bit. Up at Perryville, it's about 30 minutes north of us, and they have several sightings a year up there. I saw one last year or 2 years ago. I was coming back from fishing some strip pits over there, and it was about an hour after dark, and it was kind of a rainy, dreary evening. And I come up over this hill, and there's a black bear standing right on the side of the road.
Really?
Yep. And I called conservation a couple days later and filed a report. And they thought it was cool, but it wasn't like they were shocked. They weren't surprised because they get those sightings in that area occasionally. So,
yep.
We got a winner.
That didn't take long.
No.
Somebody started in the right direction. Daniel T. Good
Daniel
job.
T.
Now, how'd they guess that right off the bat?
I don't know. No insider stuff here, man.
Nope.
They just got lucky.
There was a couple of them that started. They usually they pick a number and they start rolling with that number.
Okay.
There was a couple of them that started in the 40s and started rolling, and Daniel T. was the first one.
Sometimes, Jim, we'll sit here for
20 minutes.
We'll sit here for 4 or 5 minutes for sure. The
Right.
numbers are just scrolling and they never get it.
And they never get bounce all around it, I guess.
Yeah. And then sometimes within the first like 5 seconds.
We've had a
somebody
couple of
knows
first
it.
guesses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Crazy. It's just random. It's kind of like that ghost fish that you pick up a bait and you make 2 casts and you catch a fish and you're like, this is the bait they're on. And then you never catch a fish on it the rest of the day. That happens a lot.
Oh yeah, if you make the first cast with a topwater in the morning, you catch a fish, that'll ruin you for 3 hours right there.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Well, how many times have you been going down the lake and it's been 30, 45 minutes? You haven't got a bite. You pick up one, you fire the cast out there. First cast, just 4-pounder. It's like, got it figured out. You lock it in your hand for another hour and you pick up another one and nothing after an hour. You pick up another bait, boom, catch another one. It's like, it's the change in rod pattern. You just got to change your rod after every fish.
There's days when you will only catch one fish on one bait.
Yeah.
I mean, you'll go through like you said, you'll make a cast, you'll catch a fish, and you'll fish that bait for 30 more minutes. Then you pick up a new bait, you'll make a couple casts, catch a fish, and fish it for 30 more minutes. And you'll do that like 10 different baits.
Yeah.
It makes no sense at all. I don't understand it. But it's like that sometimes.
Yep.
What's your top 3 Crock O Gator baits?
Good question.
Let's see. Well, Crock O Gator offers so many great baits, and all have proved to be very effective. But man, I probably have to say my favorite is a 3/4 ounce head knocker buzz bait. Just the strikes it gets and the fish that it produces. The 1/2 ounce zapper jig, that's right there, Ozark crawl zapper jig. And then the 1/4 ounce shaky pro head, but of course you got to put a swamp bug on that. So, those probably my 3 favorite. Which I use the most now, that's probably going to be the 1/4 ounce shaky head, then the zapper jig, and then the buzz bait, just because of seasons, patterns, whatever. But as far as my favorite one, it's a 3/4 ounce head knocker.
Yeah,
Okay.
I've been a big fan of the tube. I've always
See, and the tube. We talked about old baits, old school. The tube is an old school bait that I still use it a lot. I use the tube quite a bit. And it might be one of the baits that when someone says, "What did you catch them on?" Well, I caught them on the bottom on a jig or something. Well, it might have been really a tube because it's old school bait. And there's kind of windows where the tube really will get bites where nothing else will.
Mm-hmm.
I agree.
Yep.
I throw a tube a lot.
Yeah, it's a good one. Let's ask one more question, and then we'll wrap this up. What do you think? What's the most consistent section of the lake? Is there a certain section of the lake that seems to be better all around, or the fish just all over the lake at any time? Because it's a huge lake. Like if somebody's just going to the lake, it's like, where do you start? You got 50, 60, 70,000 docks. You got so many creek arms, and what's like a 10-mile section of lake fish better?
It's a huge lake, and there's, the lake goes through, seasonal. There'll be a 2-week period where you better be in the river, or you better be down by the dam, or you better be in the glaze, or what have you. There's different times throughout the year where certain areas of the lake produces a lot better and more consistent. But I would say probably all in all, I would say from the Gravois to the glaze, that stretch through the toll bridge, probably throughout the year, it's got everything. It's got some big creeks you can get back in. It's got little coves. It's got bluffs. It's got big ledge points. It's got flat points. it's got everything to offer, you know. So, and then throughout the year, we can probably fish from the glaze to the gravel ice and catch fish pretty consistent throughout the year. So I'm going to say that section of the lake would be the most consistent.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that section of the lake too.
Yeah.
It's like you said, it's got a little bit, and that's cool about Lake of the Ozarks is it does
Right.
have a little bit of everything other than grass. I mean, it's
Right.
got a little bit of everything, really.
If we could get grass way up that river, up on them flats, boy, we'd have it all then.
Yeah, yeah,
You
that
know?
lake would be. I'm amazed at how well it still fishes with the amount of pressure that it gets. I guess
Yeah.
it's all the docks. I mean, do you think that's what keeps it, you know, such a healthy fishery? Is the docks?
And I don't know, because you know, it'd be hard to say anyone else has any more tournaments here than we do.
I know,
Right.
It's unbelievable.
You know, I don't care for these big boats and these cruisers and all that. But when you really get down to it, it keeps people from fishing that main lake a lot of times. It keeps people off the water all day. You know, there's certain times of year these fish kind of get a break, and it's because of the big boats and the traffic. You know, I don't know. I think our biologists down here, our conservation department, do a great job as far as monitoring these fish. You know, they put in a lot of effort going out, shocking them, make sure we've got good, healthy, you know, size wise, and then new fish coming up, you know, good spawners. They check the entire lake, you know, to make sure we've got good, healthy fishery. And, you know, the fish we're catching right now are really healthy. They're healthy looking, not a mark on them. You know, they're just coming off of spawning. So, you know, I don't, you know, it's a high pressure lake for sure. We all know it, but it's just got a good population of fish. You know, we're catching fish. I know they're yearlings, you know, 6-8 inches, you know, and we're catching, you know, 4-pounders, you know, so it's just good, healthy, amount of fish. You know, there's a lot of crawfish, there's a ton of bluegill, there's a lot of shad. So we got good, food forage, you know, throughout the year. You know, thousands and thousands of docks from the hide in, under, behind, you know, big rocks, boulders, bluffs, standing trees, you name it. They've just got everything, you know.
You make that point about the quality and how healthy the fishery is. You talk about the amount of tournaments that you have, but there's not a lot of tournaments that I would imagine that go between the two holidays, right? Or is there still a bunch of
there's like
tournaments?
night tournaments.
Yes. No, down here there's a Tuesday night, there's a Wednesday night, there's a Friday night.
well, they're all at night.
They shift to the night, kind of.
You know, and what I'm saying is through the summer months, through the heat of the summer, you're
Right.
not carting them around baking in a live well.
That's true. Yeah, like day tournaments. No,
Yeah.
you're exactly right. You don't have these, you know, whatever 6 to 3 day tournaments where they're in them. You're yanking them out of 20 foot and putting them in a live well, and it's heated, and
yeah,
and then you bounce them back up and down the lake, you know, in the rough water. No, there's not a lot of those. So yeah, you're right. You know, that probably, you know, obviously that helps. You know, I mean,
Yeah. Because I think about our small fishery that we have a tournament, and we're all guilty of fishing them, but we got a little 1,800 acre lake, and there's a tournament out of 2 different boat ramps every Saturday and Sunday
Right.
that have 20 boats in it.
right.
And then a Wednesday and a Friday nighter as well
in the summertime.
in the summertime.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's constant from
And we're in an aluminum boat too, you know, so
cooler as his live wells
small live wells.
or uninsulated live wells. So,
Right.
No, we're back now.
But-
Well, cool, man. Let's wrap this up. Really enjoyed it. If you guys
man.
see the little ticker there at the bottom scrolling, if you want to go over to baitworks.com, you can get 10% off by using the code THM10. You can pick you up some Crock O Gator products. They got quite a few of the Crock O Gator baits over there, the right colors and the right baits over there. Special thanks to Joey for sponsoring the stream. She always does a good job, and she's continued to do. She's basically take the reins away from Jim and Denise, and she's carried it on, and she's done a really great job of that. Jim, thanks for coming on. It was good to hang out with you.
Always good talking and visiting with you guys. And obviously, if anyone's coming to the Ozarks and we can help you, Denise or I, in any way, give us a call and we'll talk about it and see if we can help you out down here.
Is it jamesdillguideservice.com?
Yes.
Perfect.
Okay. Yeah. And we'll leave that link in the description box in this video. So you guys can jump on there and you'll have fun either one.
Yeah, absolutely.
Denise
And
great,
we're
Jim
both,
great.
the same. Denise does great with the ladies, with kids, along with myself. But, one thing we always like to say is, even though we're guides or whatever, we go out and we just have a lot of fun. It's nothing to be intimidated about or worried about. If you've never fished in your life, come out, we'll have fun. If you've fished all your life, come out, we're going to have fun.
Well, tell Denise we missed her.
Yeah, I will. I'm gonna go.
She has a better morning than she did evening.
Yeah.
And we'll have to get you guys back sometime down the road so she can get on her too. I'd really like to hang out with her for evening.
Right. Okay. All right, man. Hey, I appreciate it, guys, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right, man. Thanks, Jim.
Yeah.
Bye. All right, folks.
That was a good one.
That was fun, man.
That was a good
That
one.
was fun. Jim's a good dude.
Thanks for, I know it's
great
holiday.
guy trip. Yeah, thanks for hanging out with us tonight.
Yeah.
We will be back next week. Don't know who we'll have on, but we'll.
Are you off on Wednesday?
I'm off tomorrow.
And
then the following week I'm off Wednesday.
Okay.
So I'm going fishing. I've been working on the house.
You haven't had much time on the lake, have you?
I just been trying to spend, as much time as I can out there in the house. I was putting on shelves. I thought I would be completely done with all those shelves today. And
you're not?
I'm not even halfway done.
You should call.
Crazy. Well, it's just basically a hammer drill that took forever. And then it's that whole thing where whatever time you think it's going to take to get a project done, you times it by 2.5%. It's always 2.5%.
Oh yeah.
And that's it. What I thought was I got a late start yesterday. I had to go to, basically when I got off of work on Saturday, I went to Menards and bought everything I thought I would need. Well, sure enough,
you forgot one or two things.
There was more stuff that I need. So yesterday I had to go all the way back to Menards, and I didn't get started till like noon or 1. And I spent a lot of time hanging out with people that came over to the house, phone calls, and that kind of stuff.
And I know this, but your house isn't far off of the highway.
Right.
And if you're just driving by, I mean, I'm guilty. I pulled in the driveway and checked it out before it was done.
Good move, Daniel. That paid off for you. He said you rushed home from the lake to make it tonight, and you won a nice prize package. Yeah, send me your address. You know the deal. Thanks, Todd. Or Stephanie. Hope you guys caught him.
Thanks for Daniel T. Thanks for keeping all the riprap out.
Yeah, man, it's been excellent. Keeping
us on the right websites to hit. baitworks.com/10horsemoney.
Yeah.
James Dill guideservice.com. If you guys are in the area down at Lake of the Ozarks, definitely look up Jim and Denise.
They're great people.
Great people.
Yeah, I wanted to dive into the Crock O Gator story too. Maybe we'll do that next time. I was going to say something else. Oh, okay. So videos this week. I'm trying to get this Anglers in Action tournament video together. It's so much editing. I dropped the practice video, and I just put it all in there. It's a super long video, but it's so hard. I'm going to sound like I'm complaining, but this house has added like another element to my life.
Honestly, like I know you're not backseating the channel,
right?
But that's like once you get there, how much easier is life in general?
Yeah, a couple months down the road, it's like it's just trying to edit these videos and stuff. But I'm planning on having that Anglers in Action tournament video, and it's gonna be a good one. We caught a lot of fish. We caught a lot of really nice fish. Had a really great day. It was good to see the pattern from the practice video. Thanks, Daniel. I appreciate that. Actually, if you guys haven't watched that, there's some really cool Major League Fishing, the invitational footage at the very end. I threw it all on there. I was able to stand right up next to the stage and watch John Cox win the tournament. And I was boat side with Keith Carson, hanging out with him for a little bit. I got to meet a bunch of the pros, Norby and Drew Gill. Just, it was really cool to be right there and to see it all go down. So that footage is on the backside of that practice video, but we're going to try to get that tournament video done by Friday. So I just gotta come up with 5 extra hours
out of my life to get it.
We
all
need to
done.
get on the lake this year too.
Yeah, we do.
Like we got
We got no reason to not get on the lake.
once or twice last year.
I know. Maybe we'll jump in that Wednesday nighter.
Yeah, let's plan on that.
Yeah.
So.
So, all right, we're gonna wrap it up. Happy Memorial Day to everybody. Thanks for our
You
fallen
must
heroes and stuff. Exactly. Keeping us safe in the motherland. And we will be back here next Monday, same place, same time.
See you.
See ya.